Hello and welcome to this next presentation here at ABG Investor Days, where we have the pleasure of hosting a presentation with the CEO of Doro, Carl-Johan Zetterberg. My name is Simon Granat and I work as an equity analyst at ABG, covering tech and IT companies, and I will be moderating this presentation. And with that said, Carl-Johan, please go ahead and present the company.
Thank you very much, Simon. Let me know if you don't hear me loud and clear. As Simon said, my name is Carl-Johan and I'm the president and CEO of Doro. And I will give you a short introduction to Doro, tell you a little bit about our market and our strategy and focus going forward. So I think, Simon, you can actually jump 2 slides ahead. So Doro, we are a senior-oriented technology company, being the market leader in Northern Europe for senior care and the market leader in Europe for senior mobile phones, where we assist more than 3 million seniors every year with our products and solutions. Last year, in 2020, we had an annual revenue of approximately 1.7 billion Swedish kronor, of which roughly 420 million was service revenue from our Doro Care business. And Doro Care is a business that we've grown with close to 20% in average the last 5 years. You can take next slide, please, Simon. So our 2 businesses, Doro, as said, is a senior-focused technology company with two core businesses and 2 business areas. One being business area Doro Care, where we develop, sell, and deliver technology-enabled care solutions to seniors, relatives, and caregivers, where we focus on both the market for individual living and assisted living. And this is a solution based on both hardware, software, and service elements, both from a sort of contact center perspective and field services perspective. And this business is primarily focused on the public sector. Our main customers in Doro Care are local authorities and housing associations, whereas our second business area Doro Phones, where we are the European market leader in senior mobile phones, is a business where our main customers are the large operators in Europe, like Vodafone and T-Mobile, Telia Sonera, and the large retailers in Europe, like Elköp, MediaMarkt, Tesco, etc. As I said, Doro Phones focuses on senior mobile phones. It's an offer both based on hardware and software, and more hardware-oriented business-to-business business compared to, as I said, our more service-oriented, public sector-focused Doro Care business. Next slide, please. And as I briefly mentioned before, Doro Care, we are a market leader in monitored connections in Northern Europe, with a market-leading market position in Sweden, with roughly 40% of monitored connections from Doro's perspective. Norway, also approximately 40%, and in the UK, we are a shared market leader with roughly 14%. And the lower number in the UK is because UK is a much more fragmented market today than compared to Sweden and Norway. And in Doro Phones, as I mentioned, we are market leader in senior mobile phones, where in our core markets, Sweden, UK, France, and Germany, we have 60+% market share in those markets. Next slide, please, Simon. And from Doro's perspective, we've had a strategic focus on our Doro Care business in the last couple of years in growing and building up a more significant care business also in combination to the already very strong Doro Phones business. And Doro entered into the care segment, I would say, for real, early 2015 with an acquisition in predominantly Sweden, a company called Caretech. And we have focused since in growing and further developing our care business. And as you can see, we have grown that business from a little bit below 200 million in 2017 up to 420 million last year. And if we would fully account for acquisitions that we made during 2020, especially in the UK, the pro forma number for care would be a little bit higher if we're looking from a service sales business. And of course, this brings a different element to Doro also, where we now increased, and roughly a third of our business is more service-oriented business compared to the more product-oriented focus of Doro historically. And also, as you see, the share of operating profit has also grown, and care accounted for a little bit more than a third of our operating profit last year. And as I briefly mentioned, and also the strategic focus on care has put sort of a different shift or different aspect to Doro as well. As Doro Care is the public sector focused business with local authorities and housing associations being our primary customer. And as a result, it's more public procurement driven business, service oriented business with approximately 80% of our revenue being service associated and the remaining 20% hardware driven. And the services is a combination of both hardware, software, connectivity, and contact center and field engineers, with the average contract length of the public procurement contracts roughly 4 to 5 years. Next slide, please, Simon. And based on sort of the strategic focus we've had on care and managed to grow that business in total now, Doro Care is a business that's a little bit more than 500 million Swedish kronor in revenue. And as I said, it's a business focused on Northern European, but also with some interesting market positions in countries like Germany. We've seen that Doro Care has come to a position where it is sort of strong and big enough to stand on its own. And as we said, our two business areas, they have a great thing in common, and that's the senior. But if we look at customers, business model, and offering, the two business areas differ. And that's why we've taken a strategic decision with an ambition to separately list Doro Care and have two separately listed companies, one being the Doro Phones business focusing on mobile phones for seniors, and the second company being Doro Care, focusing on technology-enabled care solutions. And we firmly believe sort of separating and separately listing the two companies will give each company the focus and dedication to their specific business that they need to ensure that we sort of capture all the opportunities that we see and that we develop the two businesses in the best possible way in the future. So as I said, our ambition and our plan is that we will separately list Doro Care, and we are currently sort of under the ambition and target to do that towards the end of 2021. Next slide, please, Simon. We can jump, I can just say, and as I said, to give you an update on, or an overview and an understanding of our market, and especially focusing on if we look at the technology-enabled care market, where today, as I think all of you know, senior care are facing great challenges already today, and all those challenges are expected to only increase in the future. Because we have both a growing elderly population, both as you see here in absolute terms, but also in relative numbers to the rest of the population. There's a growing funding gap due to increasing care costs. And also care is several more times costly in residential care and in hospital care compared to home care. And also maybe what you don't see in this slide is also the mental and physical well-being and as a result, the overall well-being of the seniors are higher in home care than in residential and hospital care. And as you might have seen, and Doro, we have started an initiative that we call the Commission of Loneliness. And we presented sort of a study on the map of loneliness in Sweden here recently. And also, I think an interesting fact and finding in that, going back to sort of residential and home care, is people who live in residential and hospital care, even though they live in an environment where they are surrounded with sort of more people on a continuous basis, they still feel more lonely than people who live independently and are treated in home care. So there are several aspects why we firmly believe that technical solutions will be a key and an enabler for senior care at home, and as a result then being able to reduce cost for society and handle some of the acute challenges that we see. Next slide, please. And why is that? So why do we believe that technology-enabled care is one of the key elements in trying to solve this complex equation? This because we see that senior care technology can, as I said, save cost for society, reduce hospital admissions, delay institutional care, can enable family to stay informed and involved. But of course, most importantly of everything is it can enable the senior to live with increased independence, safety, and quality of life. And that's our dedication if we look at Doro. We want to make seniors' lives as independent and as good as it can be. So essentially, we are striving for making the rest of your life the best of your life. We can take next slide, please, Hank. And given sort of I would say the large trends we see in society and the challenges where we believe technology-enabled care is one of the key solutions, we see, and of course also others predict, that technology-enabled care solutions will be a growing market in the future. And there are a few key factors driving growth. One is, as people live longer and as number of seniors increases, the addressable market grows. We see that penetration of care services will increase, are increasing and will increase even further in the future, in order to be able, as we said, enable home care instead of institutional care and hospital care. And this also drives revenue per customer or revenue per end user to grow as new services and new solutions will be introduced. And that's why essentially the market is expected to almost double in the coming 5 years if we look at the technology-enabled care market. Next slide, please, Simon. So a little bit of our strategy and what we want to achieve going forward, probably both from a technology-enabled care perspective, but also to give you a flavor of what we want to do in Doro phones and our market-leading position in senior mobile phones. But if we look at Doro Care and our ambition, our strategy in the technology-enabled care segment is we want to be one of the leaders driving and transforming the market for elderly care. And we want to sort of drive the market and drive ourselves from the current more responsive markets with primarily in most countries in Europe, analog connectivity, standalone systems, and more, as I said, responsive type of alarms and services. And we want to transform and drive that towards a future market that will focus on predictive, proactive, and preventive type of solution, which will require and sort of be based on IP-based and digital technology and integrated solutions of products, services, and software, where there will be more active monitoring and sort of call it behavior analysis and detection to be able to early detect changes and movements, etc. And then also, of course, empowering both caregivers, the individual themselves, and relatives and loved ones to be involved and to be as effective in their task as possible. Next slide, please. And in order to be a leader in transforming the technology-enabled care market, we believe that we will need an integrated technology solution for, as I said in the previous slide, tomorrow's services and solutions. And that integrated technology solution, from our perspective, consists of primarily 3 cornerstones. And I can take sort of one of the most important one being the software platform that will be, you could say, the glue holding everything together. And that will be key for notification, analysis, reports, device management, and essentially keeping everything together and keeping it up and running and doing both analytics, notifications, and alarms. But in order for that to happen, of course, hardware will continue to be an important piece in the solution, where different devices and sensors will be both data collectors and triggers, as it is today, or if things happen. So that will include, as we have today, both our care phones or home hub, as we call it, motion sensors, different environmental sensors, GPS tracking, etc. Where from a Doro perspective, we will focus on developing a selected few key products where we know they are key to the overall solution and where we can differentiate and develop a solution that we believe is sort of second to none in the market. For the other products, we will make sure that we use for our services and offering best of breed third-party products to ensure that we develop the best services for our customers and for the end user. And then finally, the third pillar being the contact center and our field staff, taking care and handling alarm notifications, installation, maintenance, etc., to ensure that we deliver a high qualitative service and take care of, again, customers and seniors in the best possible way. Next slide, please. And that's for our care business, and we've invested a lot in the last couple of years to ensure that we build a stronger and more solid foundation to be able to expand even further within our care business in the future. And we've developed a solid and started to do a lot of investments and development in our software platform, improving our hardware, driving sort of a high qualitative and more efficient service delivery, and also expanded our business, adding selected acquisitions, both to drive geographical expansion, but also to improve our presence in already sort of existing geographies. And looking ahead, we want to drive and accelerate growth even further for Doro Care, because we want to grow our market share in individual living, especially in the UK. We see interesting opportunities in further sort of driving growth and increasing our market share in individual living. We want to further expand into assisted living. We have relatively small business today in assisted living, and we are sort of developing and strengthening our offer in assisted living to take a very strong share in that market as well. Then, of course, developing our offering further to the more tomorrow solutions with predictive, preventive, and proactive technology-enabled care solutions, which will drive average revenue per customer or per user. And then also, we will, as an addition, as we've done historically, look for strategic acquisition opportunities to either expand geographically or even further strengthen our market position in selected markets, or as we did with Victrix that we acquired last year, acquire specific technological assets that will improve our offering overall. Next slide, please, Simon. And then if we look at our Doro phones business, where we today have, as I said, a market-leading position in Europe for senior mobile phones. We have a fantastic position that we will continue to defend and strengthen to ensure that we even further sort of increase our market-leading position in senior mobile phones in Europe, but at the same time ensuring that we have a good, continued, very good and profitable senior mobile phone business. Then in combination, we have started to invest and explore even further in sort of new innovative offerings that's suited for our customers and, of course, for the seniors at first. And what we say is that we are using and leveraging our strong platform that we build up with senior mobile phones to develop and launch new offerings. So it's about making sure that we utilize and leverage our leading senior brand that we have, where we are a leading senior technology company today with a very strong market position and brand reputation in Europe, with very strong customer relationships. As I said before, we have long and strong relationships with all the major retailers and operators in Europe today. And of course, we've been in this business for more than 45 years, meaning that we have a long and very sort of competent team with long experience and know-how in both technology and in seniors. You can take next slide, Simon. And that's meaning in sort of utilizing the assets we have and ensure that we leverage them in developing new offerings and adding new offerings to our Doro phones business. We see that our brand and our know-how and our customer relationships are relevant in highly attractive markets in the future, focusing on seniors. So this is just a few examples where we see sort of interesting opportunities that we are looking into and seeing what and how to explore in the future. Where, just an example, we can take the hearing market, where we have hearing aids and headphones for seniors, where we already today in our mobile phones put a lot of effort in sound and in the speakers, making sure that we adapt the sound to the senior's hearing and senior's ear. And here as an example, that's a market that's approximately $9 billion on a global perspective, with close to 10% annual growth. And this is just one, or these are three examples where we see, as I said, our strong foundation can be utilized to tap into different markets as well, and broadening our offering within Doro phones as we continue to manifest our leading position within senior mobile phones. I think next slide, Simon, and with that sort of short presentation of Doro, I hope you got the better overview of Doro as a company today, our two business areas, and our ambition to separately list Doro Care, have two separate companies with a strong strategy and very interesting future, with a lot of opportunities for both companies. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Carl-Johan. I'd like to continue the presentation with some questions, and I'd like to start off by continuing where you ended regarding the spin-off of Doro Care. It has now been some months since you announced the news, and I believe that you might have some more color to us to give us around that. Are you planning on changing any strategy? Are you planning on changing the go-to-market model, broadening the offering, entering new markets? Could you say anything about the new strategy?
Yeah, thank you, Simon. I think if we are looking at, of course, looking at the two different businesses, and I would say a little bit the strategy that I presented here, where we want to be the market leader and European #1 in technology-enabled care, and sort of drive tomorrow solutions. That strategy still is sort of highly relevant for Doro Care, and also from a separate listing perspective. That's the strategy and the ambition we have for Doro Care. Then, yes, we are in a process, I would say, more refining the strategy than changing the strategy. And a little bit the same goes for Doro Phones, where our ambition and strategy is to continue to be the clear market leader for senior mobile phones in Europe. But then, as I said, and as we communicated before, to invest in innovation and use and leverage the strong assets we have to sort of expand our offering within Doro Phones as well, with solutions that are relevant for our customers and for the seniors.
Thank you, Carl-Johan. And as a follow-up question to that, I know that in conjunction with the Q1 report, you mentioned that you have recently seen an increased procurement activity. What markets does that relate to? Do you see any pent-up demand within your care business due to the COVID-19 crisis?
I think sort of, and if we take both Doro Phones or phone market perspective, I think more what we can see in certain market in phones, of course, and it depends a little bit how different countries have handled the pandemic. To some extent, how much lockdown have we seen in different countries? And I would say countries where we've seen sort of significant lockdown in also sort of relevant retail sectors, we see some increased activity as restrictions are eased. And we mentioned that during the Q1 report, for example, we've seen increased activity in the UK after they started to ease on their restrictions. From a care perspective, as you said, Simon, I think in all different markets, or both Sweden, Norway, and the UK, we've started to see increased activity where, as it is predominantly now, it's an increased activity in terms of preparing and getting public tenders out. So that means there is increased activity from our customers to start to do sort of procurement, public procurement activity, which means we see increased activity now, which will lead to sort of market growth and new business a few months ahead, because first the procurement needs to go through and then the solutions needs to be installed, etc. But the activity in the market is increasing a little bit. And I would say maybe pent up demand, I would say it's rather that existing solutions have continued, and maybe changes that you wanted to have done during the last 15 months, you have postponed, and now those procurements are coming out. So it's probably a little bit of a pent up demand in new public procurement activity, but maybe necessarily that I wanted to buy something, but I stopped for 15 months.
It's a very good answer, Carl-Johan. We have unfortunately now run out of time, so I'd like to send you my best regards for participating today. So thank you for that.
Thank you very much, Simon, and thank you everyone for listening.